There you go.
Awesome. Okay, so I will start again. So, hi everybody, my name is Cris Johnson, and welcome to the webinar today. This is going to be a program about getting the 2021 off to a great start if you've been struggling with weight, as many of my clients have. I do have slides today, so I'm going to share that with you. I spent some time making these really pretty slides. And the name of the program is Dig In, How to Lose Weight. A little bit about me. I am a board certified hypnotist, and I'm also a certified instructor of hypnosis, both through the National Guild of Hypnotists. As of this presentation, it's the largest organization of this kind in the entire world. I'm also a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming and a certified trainer of neurolinguistic programming, also called NLP, which is basically using language to influence the mind. I've helped hundreds of people lose weight with my clinic. I've been hypnotizing people since 2005. I was the director of the Niagara Falls Hypnosis Center for many years, and now because of COVID, I've converted everything over. I now have a clinic called the Virtual Hypnosis Center.com. So we're going to cover a lot of really fun things today. Oops, wrong direction. Sorry about that. So we're going to cover some of the factors impeding permanent weight loss. And I think this is important because as we go through this, many of you may see some of these items I've got listed and go, oh, that's me or that's not me. But other people, and I know this from my experience in the clinic, when they would when they were getting into the nuts and bolts of what they were struggling with, many of them did not know about these specific things that we're going to be talking about today. So having an awareness is the first step in knowing what to do in order to make your weight loss permanent. We're also going to cover seven very simple keys to success to make your weight loss permanent, and also 3 mental tricks to stop auto eating. It's like some little mental things you can do throughout the day and even in the moment, which will kind of make those cravings go away. And we'll talk about that all in depth. So first of all, let's look at some of the things that may have been stopping you. And again, this is not necessarily going to be an all-inclusive list for everybody here today or watching the recording, but just a lot of the things that I encountered in my clinic. First of all, we have to talk about the addictive processed foods. The food manufacturers, and I'll talk about Kellogg's, General Mills, all of them, they genetically engineer their foods to be addictive to the point where you cannot put them down. In fact, there's an industry term called the bliss point, meaning that when you hit a certain threshold of food and your body has a signal that sends to your brain goes, you've had enough to eat. But by hitting this bliss point, it's a very delicate balance between I've had too much to eat or I'm still hungry, but now I want to keep on eating. So the bliss point is basically what they want their food to hit, where the food tastes so darn good, you keep on eating even though you're no longer hungry. So realize this, the food manufacturers of processed foods, basically anything in a can or a box or even in the frozen food section other than frozen vegetables, they're designed to hook you in, their claws into you and make you addicted to food. So having that bit of knowledge is very powerful. And also, and then this kind of folds into the next topic too, which is called deceptive labeling. They will look at their labels, and there's like certain FDA requirements that these manufacturers have to have for their food. Like, and I don't know the exact percentages, I can't remember them off the top of my head, but say they make the threshold of having like 1% fortified with vitamins in order to be able to say on the package fortified with vitamins. What happens is this. All they do is make it the absolute minimum threshold required to pass the law. But if you see the label on a package that says fortified with vitamins, it's a very seductive phrase. It's a very hypnotic phrase. It has a tendency to make people think, oh my goodness, fortified with vitamins, this must be good for me. They don't realize that they're hitting a very minor, itty bitty, teeny tiny threshold for the FDA to allow them to use that labeling. And they'll say something like sugar-free, but then if you look at the ingredients, it'll be loaded with corn syrup, which is also very sweet. So you got to look at your deceptive labeling. Also, another factor is habits established in your youth. A lot of us, myself included, we grew up with our parents telling us, you got to clean up your plate. The starving children in Ethiopia, and I know every generation has their own starving children. My generation, I'm in my late 40s, it was the Ethiopian children that were starving, so that my parents would use that against me. And I'm not casting blame either. The parents typically don't understand the fact. So let me stop my screen share for a second. Parents typically don't understand, even adults don't understand the fact that the human stomach is roughly the size of your fist, maybe a little bit smaller, maybe a little bit larger, depending on your hand. So when parents wanted us to clean up our plates when we were kids, they didn't realize just how tiny the kids' stomachs were. They wanted the kids to have nutrition. They wanted kids to not waste money. all these different factors come into play. So when I talk about habits established as youth, it's not about assigning blame. It's simply looking at the reality of how we were taught incorrectly. Um, all kinds of things like that. Slowing metabolism as an adult. Our metabolisms typically as a species, we have faster metabolism as we're younger. We have certain eating habits, and as we become adults and we head on throughout middle age and whatnot, then our metabolism typically slows down. And if we have the same eating habits, our metabolism can no longer make up the damage, so to speak. Also, another one, guilt by family. Oh my goodness, is this a big one? I'm going to talk a little bit about some stereotypes here, only because of my clinic, I found them to be true. I had a fair amount of Italian women, and it's all about food being love. And if you don't eat the food, then you're casting you're casting disrespect onto the mother who cooked all the food and everything. It's a big community event, and it's all about the food. So a lot of times our family members will guilt us. I made this for you, and people get guilted into it, and they feel like they have to eat it. And then the weight does not want to come off when these habits. I mean, I know a lot of my clients, they had weekend dinners with their mom, their 70-year-old mom, they're in their 40s, 70-year-old mom every week. And it made it very hard to establish any kind of habit in terms of reducing your calorie intake when you've got your Italian mother pushing pushing all these carbs on you. So it's not about casting blame. It's simply talking about reality and what things have been challenging us. So another one is eating when you're sad. I have it listed here, sad eating down here. When you're eating when you're sad, a lot of people will eat because their emotions. Like, oh, I'm sorry you had a bad day, honey. Eat some cake, you'll feel better. The sugar releases endorphins, so we start to feel better, and it becomes our self-perpetuating cycle of eating when we feel sad. And sugar itself, oh my goodness, let me stop my screen share for a second. Sugar itself is one of the most highly addictive substances that human beings can possibly take into their body. Sugar is so addictive, and so it's such a hard cycle to break. If you really want to lose weight, go completely off of sugar. And that's, breads, that's pastas. It's not just candy and cookies and pie. It's all of the white foods. You talk about breads and rices, crackers, all that kind of stuff. It gets metabolized into sugar in your body, even though it may not taste sweet per se. And I mention this as a bit of basic nutritional knowledge, because a lot of my clients coming in, well-educated people with very high-paying white-collar jobs, they didn't know a lot of this basic nutritional information. That goes with orange juice as well. I mean, I went through a mourning period and I found out that nutritionally speaking, orange juice from a grocery store is worthless. It's not a heck of a lot better for you than soda pop. So that was interesting too. So it's all about understanding what is actually going on in our lives, and the things that we thought to be true are actually not. Excuse me. We also have a lifestyle change denial. And when I talk about lifestyle change denial, I'm talking about people who would say to me, yeah, I want to lose the weight, but I don't want to, they say to me, I want to lose the weight, but I don't want to give up my cheesecake. I don't want to give up my cookies or what have you. Or they will go on a diet, lose some weight, and go back to the regular eating habits. So it's got to be a lifestyle change. It's got to be a permanent change. So therefore, it has to be something you're willing to do for the rest of your life, whatever it is. Celebration eating, that's another one. Yay, you did great. The kids won the baseball game. Let's all go out and celebrate and have pizza. Rehearsal dinners and the wedding dinner for weddings and that sort of thing. It's all about celebratory eating. So we're beginning the link between the sad eating, guilt by family, the celebration eating, and boredom eating. We're linking food to our emotions, using the food either as a link when something happy or sad happens, food is a part of it, or as a way to distance ourselves from our emotions, kind of like a temporary Band-Aid with food. Zone eating. A lot of people have trouble controlling their food in certain parts of their house. Most of my clients, if they eat in front of the television, they don't realize how much they're eating because their attention is divided. So if you want to reduce your weight and you eat in front of the television, commit now to eating at your kitchen or dining room table so that you're concentrating on what you're eating and not distracted and unaware of just how much you're taking in. Dehydration, this is a really big one too. Dehydration, when many people think they're hungry, they're actually dehydrated. Most people do not take in anywhere near as much water as they need to. It comes down to 8-ounce glasses of water a day minimum, and that's so when people are dehydrated, they mistake the dehydration signals as hunger. Very important one too. And moving on to our list, we also have faulty information. I kind of alluded to that earlier in terms of the processed food manufacturers. But I mean, I had multiple clients come in and sit down and say, well, I eat very healthy. Everything I eat is my wife cooks. And as they start going through the menu, so, chicken and biscuits, the rib sticking meals, just because it is home cooked, it does not necessarily mean that it's healthy. And also, my final item that I have in here, and this is not all inclusive. If I have not said something that is something that you're experiencing, because I have enough room in the slide. And I have time/starvation, meaning that many people do not eat, and they do not eat until they're actually starving. And when I mean starving, I mean they're like so hungry, the blood sugar drops, logic goes out the window, and next thing you know, you're in a state of mind where I'll eat as anything I can as long as I can wrestle it to the ground and shove it in my mouth. So when your blood sugar drops like that, logical thought, making a good choice becomes a lot more difficult. So very important stuff. Before I continue, does anybody have any questions about the items that I covered thus far? Okay, I will continue then. Awesome sauce. Okay, so now we're going to go on to 7 keys to success. These are 7 little steps that you can take right away today that don't cost any money in order to make losing weight permanently much easier. Number 1, create a healthy environment. And what I mean by that is I've lost count of how many clients that I had where they would have, like piles of cookies and potato chips and little snack cakes and things in the house. And I'd say, okay, the first thing you want to do is you want to clear out that stuff out of your house, make your house a safe environment. It is a lot easier to destroy healthy eating habits if you've got all that food just tempting you right there. It's like they tell somebody going to AA not to go into a bar. So I would tell people, my clients, get the stuff out of the house, and they would say, well, what if the grandkids come over? Well, you know what? Unless the grandkids are living with you, they can, and even if they are, they can live without those sugary snacks as well. Same thing if they would say, well, I want to have healthy food in the house, but my husband won't eat it, or my wife won't eat it, or the kids won't eat it. Well, you know what? Tough. And I say this to the people who would say this to me are the people who primarily were the ones who were preparing the meals. They had all of the control. And believe me, if you're the one preparing the meals, eventually the people who are not preparing the meals, they'll fall in line and they'll eat what you give them. So it all comes down to how important it is to you versus how much you want to have an excuse rule your life. And that's what it is. It's just an excuse. Number 2, control what you can control. What I mean by that is this: a lot of my clients come to see me and they would say, well, Betty at the office, she brings in a box of donuts every day or things like that. So maybe you can't control what Betty brings into the office, but you can yourself choose to bring healthier snacks into the house. You can make a choice about what you put into your body. And that goes with guilt eating from family members and things like that. It is not up to them what you put in your body. It is up to you what you put in your body. So this is simply a mindset thing that you're not going to be guilted or shamed or made to feel like a pariah if somebody at work brings something into the house or whatever the case may be. It is your choice and yours alone. And it's a mindset thing that is relatively easy to adopt as long as you're willing to take charge of your own life. Number 3, change your words, change your mind. And this all comes down to avoiding certain words. Like if you say, well, I'm going to try to eat better, that implies failure. So eliminate the word try from your vocabulary. I mean, think about it like this. How many times have you said, you bump into somebody at the grocery store or out in public and you say, before COVID, of course, and you say, yeah, I'll try to give you a call later. We'll try to stop by later on today. Well, the word try, you're giving yourself permission to fail. And number 4, I covered this briefly earlier, but eliminate guilt. Eliminate the guilt from the office. If you're afraid that people may look at you funny if you're not partaking in the food, if family members guilt you into eating, just eliminate all that guilt from your life. I mean, guilt is so much of our guilt is self-imposed. It's all simple mindset shifts, and we'll talk about more mindset shifts in a little bit. Number 5, you can train yourself to drink more water. So let's talk about this for a second. A lot of my clients that I talk to, and I discussed losing weight in the past, I said, well, I don't like to drink water. I'm used to my coffee, I'm used to my soda, used to this, that, and the other thing. And they have to, the idea of drinking water doesn't appeal to them. So here's what you do. You go off in baby steps. You don't do it all at once. You work your way into it. Here's what I mean by that. take something like the size of a shot glass or a little Dixie cup, a little teeny tiny kind of thing. This holds like an ounce or two of water. Place one by every sink in your house. And just make yourself a promise that all you're going to do is every time you're walking through your house or you're carrying your laundry through your house, you're on your way downstairs, on your way upstairs, you're going to use the facilities, whatever the case may be, that you're going to commit to every time you walk by a sink in your house, you're going to take a shot of that water. And what you're doing is you're taking baby steps to establish a habit. Because so many times we have the idea of building a habit in our mind and like this big life change. I'm going to lose 20 pounds, I'm going to lose 30 pounds, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, whatever the case may be. And realistically, for a lot of people, that kind of life change, that kind of seismic shift in how you live your life every day can be really challenging. So by taking little baby steps, I don't know if anybody here ever saw the movie What About Bob with Bill Murray and Richard Dreyfuss. Great movie, really funny. And in the movie, Richard Dreyfuss played a psychologist, a really arrogant psychologist, and Bill Murray played a guy who had a lot of issues. He was a hypochondriac, among other things. And one of the things that Richard Dreyfuss told him was take baby steps. You know, like he was so paranoid, Bill Murray's character, he didn't even want to leave the house half the time. So Richard Dreyfuss told him use baby steps. You just don't think about leaving the house to go downtown and go grocery shopping. Just think about what you have to do to cross the room and open the door. And then take baby steps out of your house, then baby steps down the stairs, then baby steps to the cab to go get your food or whatever the case may be. So set very small, reasonable, and I'll say it, stupid, easy goals that you can achieve very easily. And next thing you know, you're taking the next step and the next step. And now you're not just drinking a shot glass of water, then you move up to like regular glasses and that sort of thing. So that's a little tip for you in case you're one of the people who does not enjoy the idea of water, or rather go towards soda pop and things like that. And that kind of dovetails into my next point about exercise. Now, again, I'm not a trained physician. I have no medical training whatsoever. So I'll always say before embarking in any kind of exercise program, consult with your physician. Now, that being said, if you are physically cleared to exercise and work out, here is a very simple exercise plan to get started. It is so ridiculous, and you can see the label right there. It is the 30-second exercise plan. Super simple, super easy. Now, the idea behind this is that you're, again, installing a habit. They say it takes 21 days to install a habit. I don't know if that's true or not, but I do know that the easier the habit, the easier the task, the more likely it is that you can install that habit. So literally, and if you're able to today to start your exercise program, starting today, don't put it off till tomorrow because tomorrow never gets here. Start off today with the idea of committing to exercise for 30 seconds a day. I mean, when we hear about exercise, this time of year, when New Year's resolutions are hitting, you'll hear a lot of people, a lot of commercials rather, talking about different websites and .gov, and they'll say things like, the Surgeon General recommends getting 30 minutes of exercise four times a week or whatever it is. I don't know what the exact number is. I don't care. But when people who are not in the habit of exercise and they hear 30 minutes a day or 45 minutes a day, 4 times a week or whatever it is, and it sounds like a big deal. They say to themselves, "Oh my goodness, I don't have time. I've got to work. I mean, I have ache pain. I have aches and pains. My joints hurt. Whatever the case may be." And it's all about establishing a habit. So instead of having this big thing in your mind about 30, 45 minutes a day, whatever it is, do 30 seconds a day. I mean, that could be walking to the mailbox and back, and you're already doing that. So maybe you'll walk an extra time to the mailbox a day. Something you're not already doing. Like if it takes you like a minute to walk to your mailbox and you do that every day, don't look at that as your 30 seconds of exercise because you're already doing it. It's above and beyond what you're already doing. It's just an example. So let's just say for like in my house, my mailbox is by the road and our house sits back quite a bit. And it takes, I haven't timed it, it's probably about a 2-minute walk. So if I was going to use this technique, I would walk to the mailbox an extra time every day. So I'm adding in that extra 30 seconds to 2 minutes, whatever it may be. Something you're already doing. I mean, that right there, now you're installing a habit. And then what you do, you put it on a calendar. That first week, I'm going to exercise 30 seconds a day. And then the second week, bump it up to like a minute. Week after that, 90 seconds. Whatever it is, it's very small incremental steps. And you're establishing a habit in a way that does not seem like this big mountain of a roadblock inside your head. Hope that makes sense to everybody. And here's another thing I'll say about moving more too. Because I like to call it moving more, not just exercise. I get so many people saying, well, I don't like lifting weights, or I run out of, it's hard for me to jog. I have asthma, or whatever the case may be. Find things that agree with you physically to the best of your ability. And number two, find things that you enjoy doing. Like I had one client say, well, I can't stand jogging. I said, don't jog, find something else. And he did a little bit of research, and he found out that when you're gardening, I don't know, remember what the how many calories he burned doing gardening, but he did some research, and he found when you're gardening, you're burning a whole lot of calories, and you like gardening anyway. So he just upped his gardening, and it was fantastic, and the pounds just came off, and he felt better physically. So find something you do enjoy doing. A lot of exercise I don't like doing. I don't like doing burpees. That's the thing where you jump down and kick your feet out, jump back. I hate those. So I don't do them. I don't particularly care for sit-ups or crunches because I don't like the feeling in my abs. I equate that with stress. I like doing yoga. I like doing, I personally love jogging. All kinds of different things like that. Just find something you like. There's like a bazillion, medical term, a bazillion exercises out there. It's all about finding something that you like. And they'll be a lot more apt to do it. So going back to my screen share here. And number 7 is shop the perimeter of the grocery store. And that's something that you can start right away today. In most grocery stores, the best foods are going to be in your produce section, your protein section with your meats and so forth, or on the perimeter of the grocery store. And then you work your way down past meats and dairy, and even dairy is not good for adults past for people past a certain age. But I don't want to get into a whole nutritional thing. And then your frozen foods, and again, a lot of frozen foods are bad for you too, but there's also a lot of great vegetables in the frozen food section too, and they're cheap. Frozen foods, it's like $1. A lot of people say eating healthy is expensive. Yeah, eating fresh produce can be a little bit pricey, but if you go to the frozen food section, I can get like a bag of peas, a 1 pound bag of peas, or corn, or carrots, or broccoli for $1. And that's cheaper. That's cheaper than getting a can of like corned beef hash or Hormel chili, for a meal. It's actually cheaper to eat frozen foods than it is a lot of this processed garbage at the grocery stores. But anyway, if you shop the perimeter of the store, you're going to avoid a lot of the aisles in the middle of the store. Your cereals, your canned meals like chili that I mentioned a moment ago, hash, all that kind of stuff. It's like garbage in your body. I'm not going to say that the can or the cardboard container is better for you than the food inside. Mythbusters broke that one. But I will say all it is nothing but garbage into your body. So shop the perimeter of the store. Now, and a lot of this stuff sounds so simple because it is, but a lot of it comes down to, true change comes down to the idea of having your mind in the right place. So the next section we're going to get into is 3 mental tricks you can do for yourself. Because a lot of the times, a lot of my clients, they eat food improperly based on their mental state. If they're bored, or they're sad, or they're lonely, or celebratory, things like that, or just the addictive nature of food. It just became it's like an alcoholic. It really, really is. So there's some mental things I'm going to teach you, some little exercises that we can all do, and you're not going to look funny on camera or anything like that because most of you have your cameras turned off, and that's fine. But there's things that nobody's going to notice you're doing anything. So what I'm going to teach you are things that you can do virtually anytime, anywhere, to get your mind to a more receptive state in order to lose weight. So let me get into this. The first one is called bilateral hemispheric stimulation. Very simple concept. I'm going to turn off my screen sharing for a second to show it to you. So anybody who's watching this now live or the recording, if you choose to participate, great. If you don't, I understand. But those of you who want to participate, get a pen or any small object. I've got a marker right here. I've got my cell phone. I've got my car keys. So you can get any small object. And then just move that pen back and forth like this. Whatever it is, could be a paper clip, ball of paper, doesn't matter. Just anything back and forth. And what this does is it stimulates both halves of your brain. They say that a craving or a negative emotion or anger, whatever the case may be, manifests itself in one hemisphere, one half of your head. I don't remember which half. It doesn't really matter right now for our discussion. And the idea of this back and forth action, it stimulates both halves of your brain. And the side effect is that a craving or a negative emotion, it just like water that goes down, it just dissipates right away. So if those, I'm going to do this live. If anybody wants to participate with this, you're more than welcome to. And if you don't want to, that's fine too. But if you want to participate right now, think about the most, you got two choices. You can either think about the most tempting food in the world to you, the kind of food that makes you go, oh God, I can't wait to have that, and let that craving build up inside of you. Or second choice, you can think about something that happens to you habitually that causes you stress that may make you want to eat. Maybe it's worry about COVID. Maybe it's a coworker that drives you nuts. Maybe it's a family member that drives you nuts. I mean, we just have the holidays, whatever. So your choice now is either think about something that causes you stress that may cause you to eat improperly, or allow a craving to build inside of you to the point where you're, oh, I really want that. Like mine is cheesecake. You know, that's one of my things. Cheesecake and Dairy Queen Blizzards. Oh my God, I want a Dairy Queen Blizzard. So think about something right now, either that craving, let it build up inside of you to where you can feel it. On a 1 to 10 scale, let it rise up, preferably 4 or 5 or higher, but at least a 2 or 3 so you can feel that it's there, with 0 being nothing and 10 being the most intense feeling ever. Either that stress or that craving. Let it build up now. And then once you can feel that and you can assign it a number greater than 0, from 0 to 10, then take that pen or that small object and go back and forth. And after just a few seconds, you're going to feel that number begin to lower. Now, it depends on where your number is. Like, so I do a lot of work with clients who feel stress or anxiety. And as a result, those clients who feel stress or anxiety, if they're like at an 8, for example, when they start doing the thing with a pen, within a few seconds, they're down to like a 5 or a 6. Or if they start off at a 4, they're down to like a 1. Or if they're down at a 3, they're down to like a 0 or a 1, or whatever the case may be. And I see some of you actually doing this. And if you can actually feel that number coming down, that craving or that stress level or whatever it is, give me, oh, good, I got a thumbs up. Good, awesome, thank you, good. Proof of concept here. And this is simply using how your brain works in your favor. And we're going to talk about language in a little bit, but so many people do not understand how their minds work, and they unintentionally self-sabotage. This is a great little technique, bilateral hemispheric stimulation. And by the way, you can also do this, say, for example, later and Stacy and I were talking about this before we went live, say, for example, things go back to quasi-normal at the end of 2021. I don't know if they will or not, but just hypothetically. And you're going out to your favorite restaurant. You haven't been to your favorite restaurant in however long it's been, just hypothetically. And you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna eat everything that's there, but you really want to keep this weight off that you're gonna start losing starting today with this program. Then here's what you do. Before you walk into the restaurant, you feel all those feelings. Oh my God, I cannot wait to eat this food. Just get your pen out and just start doing this. Or doing this when you're sitting down right before you order, that kind of thing. And you let those feelings dissipate, and you'll make a more reasonable order instead of ordering 9 things off the menu like I originally thought I was going to do. My wife and we got P.F. Chang's takeout for anniversary. I'm like, oh my God, haven't had P.F. Chang's takeout in months because of COVID. I'm going to eat 9 things off the menu. No, I did a technique. I got myself off the ledge, so to speak. And next thing you know, we made reasonable choices. And not only did we make reasonable choices, but we spread the food out over several days. So instead of eating like 3,000 calories in a day, we spread it out to a reasonable level over the, whatever it was, 2-3 days after we bought that food for celebrate our anniversary. So use this and prepare in preparation for a meal with your family members, like one of those big rib sticking meals of mashed potatoes and coleslaw and whatever. Do this ahead of time, like right before you start eating, to kind of get your emotions in check, that kind of thing. And that kind of goes into our second technique, which we're going to do. And oh, by the way, before I continue on, anybody have any questions about the bilateral stimulation? Very simple technique. It's simply using how your brain works to meet your goals instead of fighting yourself. And again, we'll talk about that more later. Okay, next technique, this is very, very cool, is something called mental vacation. Mental vacation, super simple technique. Super simple technique. And basically what it involves is this. What I'd like everybody to do right now is, if you want to participate, if you don't want to participate, you don't have to. But if you want to participate, close your eyes and think about now a place, when you've gone to this place, you feel the most relaxed, the most calm, the most enjoyment. Now, it could be a beach. A lot of my clients, when we did this, they just happened to take a trip to the beach recently, or their favorite trip was to a beach. It could be, if you don't like the outdoors, not everybody does. It could be, favorite hotel room when you went to vacation someplace. It could be your grandmother's backyard when you were a child. Whatever the case may be, I would encourage you to use something that is not, oh, my bedroom in my house, because it's like too easy. Something causes a noticeable rising in your feelings of relaxation, something out of the norm. So think about that place now. Close your eyes. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to picture, imagine, or at least think about that location. Think about all the things you would see if you're actually in that location. Like, for instance, if you're imagining yourself on the beach, imagine what you would see on the beach. Like, you would see the sand, you would see the sky, and look at the details in the sky too. Is your sky, is it like a blue sky, or like white fluffy clouds? Or is it overcast? Because some people do like overcast, that's fine. And the sand, like, what color is the sand? Is it like sand color sand, or is it like darker sand? I know there's different levels of sand. Is it like a rocky beach? What does the water look like if you're on that beach? Is it calm, where the water is gently lapping up to the shore? Or is it like, are you on the beach of, next to an ocean? And if you look out further out in the ocean, you can see the waves coming up such that there's surfers out there. Whatever the case may be. Are there other people on this beach with you, or are you in isolation? Imagine that readily. Imagine all the things you would hear too if you're actually on that beach. The sounds of people splashing in the water, the sounds of laughter, conversation, maybe the wind blowing through the air. You're hearing that too? Wind blowing through the air. Wind blowing through the trees, that kind of thing. The sound of perhaps seagulls squawking as they fly over. All things you would hear. Make that as real in your mind as you possibly can. What would you feel if you're sitting on the beach? What are you sitting down on? Are you sitting down on a chair, on a blanket over the sand so it's uneven beneath you? Can you feel the sunshine washing over your skin? Can you feel the wind blowing across your skin through your hair? What can you actually imagine yourself feeling? Add in smells. Can you smell the salt in the air if your beach is in the ocean? Can you smell the actual sand itself? Because there's sometimes in the sand by the ocean there's like little crabs and little things going through the sand. Maybe you can smell that too. It's got a very distinct aroma. Or maybe you can smell the suntan lotion that somebody next to you is wearing. Now, of course, if you're indoors, it's going to change, obviously. What do the furnishings look like when you're indoors? What color are the walls? What sounds do you hear? Do you hear the sounds of air conditioning, or a ceiling fan, or soft music playing in the background? All the things you would hear, see, feel, taste as well. Maybe you can imagine tasting some nice cool water while you're in that wonderful spot. So engage all of your senses. Make it as real as possible. And then give yourself some kind of a physical trigger. What I mean by that is, while I'm talking, allow those feelings of relaxation to rise as much as possible. And when you feel that you've got those feelings of relaxation as high as they can possibly be, and give yourself a 10 scale, like 0 to 10, with 0 being not feeling relaxed at all, and 10 being the most relaxed you can possibly, give it some kind of a number. And when you feel that right now, doing this little exercise with me is the highest level of relaxation you can reach right now, then give yourself some kind of a physical gesture. I'll give you some examples. It could be closing your hand in a fist. It could be pinching your first finger and thumb together. It could be using your right hand to grasp your left wrist, or vice versa. Some kind of a physical gesture that is easy to remember and easy to do. You can do it anytime, anywhere. And so choose that gesture now. Again, it could be clenching your fist and your hands in a gentle fist, pinching your first and second finger together, using one hand to grasp the other hand's wrist. And once you can feel that relaxation at its apex, at its highest point, go ahead and make that physical gesture. Clench that fist, pinch those fingers, grasp that wrist, whatever the case may be. Make that physical gesture. Good. 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 Now, release whatever that physical gesture is. Open your eyes. Go back into the room. Good. And kind of give yourself one of these. Just kind of give yourself a little bit of a shake. We're calling this break state. Give yourself a little bit of a shake. Okay. And then we're going to put it to the test. And then I'm going to tie it all together and tell you why this stuff works so well. So now right now, you're giving yourself a little bit of a shake. You're back in the room. You should feel pretty mellow, but not at that deep level of relaxation. Hopefully you're able to achieve. Now, close your eyes again. And what I'd like you to do is picture, imagine, or think about, again, either that really tempting food that you really want, or something that causes you stress or negative feelings or emotions that cause you to reach for those foods. One of those things, either one of those things. And as soon as you can feel some of that negative feeling, the stress or the craving for the bad food, whatever it is, as soon as you can feel some of that feeling, do that physical gesture, the hand clasp, the pinch, the grasping the wrist, and think about your vacation spot. And as soon as you do that physical gesture and you think about that vacation spot, notice how that craving for that food or that stress feeling begins to drop. So say, for example, your feeling of stress or your feeling of craving for that food was at a 5 on our 0 to 10 scale. And then you do your physical gesture linked to that relaxation and notice how that number drops. And once you notice that number drops, somebody give me like a thumbs up or nod your head or something like that. This stuff really works. Awesome. Thank you, Randy. Great. Awesome. So now you can let your eyes open, and I'll let you go back into that in a second because I want to do that a couple more times to make it habit to you and really install this anchor. I'm going to talk about anchoring for a few moments because that's what this is. This is anchoring. An anchor is something you see, feel, hear, taste, or experience that causes you to respond in a certain way. If you hear a certain song and it reminds you of your days in high school, for example, that's an anchor. If you smell a perfume and it reminds you of your grandmother or your mother or an aunt, that's an anchor too. If you, like one of mine, I drive by the McDonald's Golden Arches and I see those Golden Arches and my mouth starts watering. That's an anchor because I really like McDonald's. And they're like, oh God, McRib's been back. Like the last few weeks too, I'm like going on in my mind. I'm like pinching and I'm doing all these little techniques for myself too to keep myself away from McDonald's because I love McRib. So anything that you see, hear, feel, or encounter and it causes you to respond in a certain way is an anchor. And this is normal, this is natural. In our lifetimes, we may form thousands of anchors a day. Not a day, throughout our lifetime. Maybe hundreds of thousands, I don't know. If you have a spouse and your spouse is upset with you and they say your name in a certain tone of voice, and you hear that, and your reaction is, uh-oh, what I do now? That's an anchor. Somebody holds out, and I don't know how many people outside of Western culture are going to see this, maybe a lot, hopefully. But if in Western culture, I don't know about across the sea, but in Western culture, somebody goes to shake our hands, they hold out their right hand like this, then we are programmed since we're little kids to reach out and shake their hand in kind. It's just something that we're programmed to do. So we have all these anchors influencing our behavior. It makes a lot of what we do like mental shortcuts. That's what we're talking about here. This is normal. This is natural. I mean, think about it. If you had to think about everything you had to do in order to get up and walk out of the room, you'd be there all day. Okay, I have to shift my left foot, shift my right foot, push off the chair, get up, whatever it is. So now it just turns into, okay, I want to get up, turns into an automatic process. So a lot of our behaviors is almost like automatic pilot on an airplane. So an anchor is something that causes us to think, feel, to respond in a certain way, like a mental shortcut. And the beautiful thing about this, we can set our own anchors. A lot of our anchors are set unintentionally. And when I say unintentionally, a great example of this is in advertising. A number of years ago, I forget when, the demographic that was most likely, as far as age, most likely to buy a Cadillac was a youth, a teenager, back when the band Led Zeppelin was at its apex. So they started playing Led Zeppelin songs in the background of the visual of a Cadillac commercial, forming a link between the idea of, oh, cool, awesome, these positive feelings of Led Zeppelin to this idea of owning a Cadillac now when you're, the clientele is middle age. So there's a lot of advertisers, they do a lot to set anchors too and make us feel warm fuzzies or positive feelings toward a product, but you can set your own anchors, and you've already done this today. By imagining that what you think about influences your body. So if you think about something that relaxes you, you begin to feel relaxed. If you think about something that stresses you, you begin to feel stressed. Those of you who participated today, you've already experienced that. And we've gotten confirmation that, that what we're talking about actually makes sense and is working. Thank you, Randy. So what we're talking about then is taking the same neurological process, how our brains work, and doing it deliberately. So by thinking about something that relaxes you, your vacation spot, make that part of your daily goal. Like when you get up in the morning and when you go to sleep at night, and don't tell me you don't have time for this, because you got 30 seconds to do it when you first get up in the morning or when you go to sleep at night. And you also have time when you use the restroom or you use a shower. So there are times during the day you've got time to practice this. And you just think about that vacation. All you do is think about that vacation spot, sight, sounds, feelings, everything, making it as real in your mind as you possibly can. That makes the feelings more powerful, which is why I was talking about things you see, hear, taste, touch, feel, everything. It makes it more vivid to you, makes the feelings more prevalent. So you practice that a few times a day. And then you add in whatever your physical gesture was. And I let you choose. I let my clients choose too. Pinching your fingers together like this, grasping one wrist, the clench of a fist, whatever it may be. You practice that every day while you're doing that mental vacation. Then when you're in a situation when, I know whenever I go to this restaurant, I make bad choices. Oh, I know whenever I go to this person's house, I make bad choices. Right before you reach for the food, do that physical gesture. And with practice, it will have an effect on you of lowering the negative feelings and bringing back the positive feelings. You can't be in two emotional states at the same time. You can't be happy and sad at the same time. And I'm not talking about bittersweet, but like in general, you cannot have two emotional states at the same time. Like you can't feel stressed and relaxed at the same time. So if you do your trigger and you practice it enough so it becomes automatic, like the handshake, then you're generating the resourceful feelings of relaxation. So you're not as prone to be a slave to your emotions when it comes to eating. Because most of my clients, a lot of it came down to emotional eating. Hope that makes sense to everybody. Before I move on, does anybody have any questions about what we just covered? Because it was extremely important. Any questions about that? Okay, great. I'll move on. So we will move on now to the final of our three keys to success. And that is a phrase, I eat less and I enjoy it more. I eat less and I enjoy it more. You see, a lot of people, they use their language in a negative sense. Like the program is it drives me crazy. They'll say, well, I just know I'm gonna make a pig out of myself when I go to this event. Or I just know that I'm going to do this. I just know that I'm going to do that. People do not realize that they're programming themselves for failure. So what you do is, this is called autosuggestion. Is when you sit down to a meal, either out loud if you're by yourself, or if you're with a loved one and you're telling them what's going on, like, hey, I'm going to do this thing before I eat. Just let me do this. It's going to work. You can say it out loud. If you're like in a public forum, you don't want to say it out loud. You can just think it. I eat less and I enjoy it more. You're telling yourself what you want to do. Because a lot of people have come into my office, and we're talking about self-sabotage and language here. I promised I was going to come back to this from earlier in today's talk. A lot of people come into my office, my clinic, and they would say, I say, what do you want to accomplish? What do you want hypnosis to help you accomplish? And they'd say, well, I don't want to be fat anymore. I don't want to be overweight anymore. I don't want to eat too much anymore. Okay, tell me what you don't want. Now tell me what you do want. Well, I don't want to be fat anymore. You're saying what you don't want. You want to say it in the positive, like, I want to achieve this. When you say, I don't want to be fat anymore, I don't want to weigh this anymore, you're actually telling yourself that you want to weigh that much anymore. Because it's like a weird mental thing. A lot of hypnotists and psychologists say, well, the mind doesn't process negative suggestions like that. It does. It's just, it processes it differently. And I don't want to get into a whole neurological conversation. So when you say, it's like this, don't think of a pink elephant. And I'd be willing to bet most people watching this, at least for a nanosecond, had the idea of a pink elephant pop into their head. So you say what you do want, not what you don't want. It's simply, we're talking about language here and how it begins to program yourself. So you sit down and you say to yourself, I eat less and I enjoy it more. And you do that every time you sit down, and it will serve as an impetus for you to have a positive thought in your mind before you start to eat. And I want to back up too and say that all these little tricks that I'm telling you today, the mental vacation, and I gave you an extra, I wasn't going to talk about anchoring today, but I decided to give you an extra one with the anchoring, the physical gesture, the mental vacation, the I eat less and I enjoy it more, the pen going back and forth. Here's something really wonderful and magical about these techniques. You can do them anytime, anywhere. A lot of the self-help books and other self-help modalities and experts that I've talked to, they have these things where, okay, you got to sit down and listen to a CD for 30 minutes. You have to do this, you have to do that, which is great. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, but in the real world, when people are confronted with making a bad choice, until they've installed new habits, for some people it can be more challenging. So what I've given you are things that you can do anytime, anywhere, and nobody knows you're doing anything. Because there's one that I teach which involves tapping, and even that one's a little bit harder to camouflage. But when you're doing this, you get the idea of your head. Oh my God, people are going to, well, why am I doing this pen back and forth? You're just fiddling. All you're doing is just fiddling with a pen. Anybody watching, it wouldn't even register, even think about it. Oh, John Doe, he's fiddling with a pen today. They're not even going to register in their brain. It becomes invisible because it's such a non-essential physical movement. And I know this works because, well, number one, because I do it myself when I'm in public, and I'm like, oh, I really want to, I'm driving. I really want to go to and get that. I'm at a red light. McDonald's is next to me. I really want to get that McRib. No. And it just kind of goes away. And I've had clients tell me, I had one client in particular tell me a great story. He's going through a really rough separation and divorce. And every time that he was then talking to the lawyer and his wife was there and everything, and they're going through all this stuff, he started doing this with his pen. And at one point, I think the wife asked him, like, what are you doing? He's like, nothing. And she let it go, and it turned into nothing. So in the mental vacation thing, if you practice it at home when no one's around, it becomes habit. So now you can just, like, if your mental vacation spot is the Caribbeans, for example, you think Caribbeans, and it's going to, with practice, it's going to just, say that word inside your brain, not even out loud, and those thoughts going to come back into your brain. And then the physical gesture. So watch, say your physical gesture is clasping, grasping your wrist. I'm just grasping my wrist. It's just a physical gesture. It doesn't mean anything. Your physical gesture could be crossing your fingers like this. My wife is a little bit unusual. She does this with her thumbs, which is kind of cute. If your physical gesture is pinching your fingers together, I do it whenever I'm teaching this in a live in-person seminar. I do it like this. I'm very theatrical, but really it can just be, I'm doing it against my chest. You can't even see it now. It becomes invisible. The I eat less and I enjoy more becomes invisible. You can say it silently to yourself. So we're talking about techniques that allow you to shift your mental state to make a better choice when you're at the grocery store looking for food. We talked about techniques to make it so that you've made your house in a healthier environment. We talked about a lot of really interesting things today in order to help you lose weight. And all this stuff sounds simple because it is simple. Losing weight should not be some big, complicated, horrifying thing. I mean, I know a lot of people, they do the Jenny Craig or the meals that are mailed to you all the time. There's a lot of prep and a lot of difficulty. And if it works, great. I'm not dissuading anybody from it. But in my experience, most of my clients, they want it simple, effective, and fast. So I'm not saying to do those other things. I'm simply saying that what I've given you today is a lot easier than those things that other people may recommend or try. And here it is, 2021, and you're gonna, if you haven't already, you're gonna start seeing the Weight Watchers commercials and things like that, because they know that New Year's resolutions are when this stuff really is at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. So what I've given you today is stuff that you can do today, and it doesn't cost you a dime. So that being said, I want to open it up now. We've got a few minutes left, and I want to see if anybody has any questions about anything we've covered today. And if you do have a question and your camera's not on, turn your camera on and then unmute yourself, and we know if you have any questions. Okay, then I guess we will move on now to my last slide. And this is not a big pitch per se, but I know that the vast majority of people who came to see me in my clinic, they would come to see me in my clinic because of stress. So that being said, I've got a very simple online program you can investigate and determine if it's right for you. It's like very, very, very inexpensive at faststressreduction.com. That's the website, faststressreduction.com. No heavy pitch, just go there, read about it, learn about it. That website talks all about stress, but the techniques can be used to control cravings and temptations like that too. And again, most of my clients ate because of stress. So with that being said, if there are no other questions, then I guess we can bring this to close. Again, that website is faststressreduction.com, right there on the screen, all squished together, faststressreduction.com. Check it out. Ask me, let me know if you have any questions. I guess I'll reach out to Miss Stacy. Miss Stacy, are you still with us? I know she's muted right now. We got the Mason and Lime Public Library logo up. She may have had to step away to deal with a client or something like that. Oh, there she is.
Hello, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I wanted to know if you had any questions before we brought this program to a close, because I know that this was your program suggestion, and I want to make sure I had a chance to serve your needs too.
I don't, because I've been on a business call, so I unfortunately have missed the program at this point, but I'm looking forward to watching the recording. So that's something to keep in mind if you've been watching and you want to go back over anything that Cris has said today. I'm going to send everybody a link because this has been recorded.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, folks, I have had, oh, thank you. Thank you, Randy. Another thumbs up. I appreciate that. Folks, and Julie's giving me a nice little high five. I appreciate that. I'm learning about icons. It's either a high five or a slap to the face. Hopefully it's just a high five. So I want to thank you folks very much for joining me. And again, if you have any questions about anything, reach out. Stacy has my contact information. I'll throw it up on the screen one last time, faststressreduction.com, if you want to check out that program. But again, contact me if you have any. Oh, thank you, Linda, for the thumbs up. I appreciate that. If you have any specific questions about this program, just, oh, thank you, Pam. I appreciate that too. Just, contact me. I should have had my contact information on the, in fact, you know what? I'll hang on right now. I will put my contact information on the slide. We'll change this in real time. So anybody watching this can actually have my contact information. Let me give you my email address. And just any questions about anything we covered today for this program, just give me a buzz and I'll be happy to have any points of clarification. CrisJohnsonInfo.net. So you can jot that down. Let me know if you have any questions about anything I can help you with. Clarifications. If you want me to run through the mental vacation with you over the phone to kind of help you make it really firm in your brain. We'll take a couple minutes. We can do that. Not a problem. Just as a service to the library and the wonderful patrons at the library, and for Miss Stacy, because she has been one of my biggest fans for the last several years, and I love doing programs for Mason and Library. So you folks have been a lot of fun, and I do wish you folks the best 2021. And thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I know time is our one irreplaceable commodity, so I'm very pleased and flattered you chose to spend it with me today. And have a great day, folks. Thanks very much. All right. Thanks very much.